There's one street in Shanghai that rises above all of the other streets as the main attraction for the visitor, and that is Nanjing. So let's take a good look at Nanjing right in the heart of Shanghai, right in downtown. This is about 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30. The stores are beginning to open, and the mall isn't too crowded yet. It's a big pedestrian mall. It's got a lot of shops of all types. There's food stores. You can buy the candies and cookies. Here's delivery by bicycle, very typical in Shanghai and throughout China. There's lots of bicycles and mopeds used for transportation, for delivery, just like a little truck. And the side streets are also fascinating. Just a block off of Nanjing, there's old-fashioned streets. Here's some employees out front of their store getting their exercise in the morning. Whole variety of other sort of activities going on in the morning. There's fan dancers, there was Tai Chi, and we'll show you some kind of unusual things going on in a public mall in the heart of a great city. It gets different later in the day. We'll show you how the street evolves during the course of the day. It gets real busy. By noon, it's packed with people. You wouldn't be able to do this fan dance. You'd be trampled by the crowds. But in the morning, check this out. This fellow is repairing an umbrella. They really do recycle things in China. They don't just throw things away when it breaks. And these folks are getting haircuts right out in the public mall. Haircuts out in the open. This is life lived in the streets. This is just normal for China, for Shanghai. Blood pressure checks. And here's a tailor right next to the blood pressure outfit. And he's cutting up some kind of a custom outfit for the person there. And tailoring right on the spot. Some shops get open early in the day. They get a head start. Such as this sundry store downstairs. It's like tourist heaven. There are so many different trinkets and souvenirs. You want to be sure to head into the different levels of a store. Don't just look in the front window or stay on the main floor. Go on down into the basement and look for some bargains. And of course you can negotiate on the prices, especially if you're buying a handful of jade bracelets or you're buying some clothing. These folks are going at it back and forth, haggling over a deal. The prices are low by Western standards. It's about $10 for a shirt in this store, $40 for a very nice suit. Well, as the day progresses at Nanjing, it gets busier and more crowded. The sun comes out a little more brightly and everybody's snapping their pictures. Most of the people on this road are tourists from China perhaps, but they're tourists nonetheless. After all, most of the tourism in China is internal travel, other Chinese visiting the big city and getting their snapshots and buying their souvenirs. So even if you are surrounded by tourists, they're still Chinese. It's all part of this great atmosphere, especially fun here in the heart of town at Nanjing. The big department store is the old-fashioned number one on Nanjing, right by People's Park.
We are now just here on the Nanjing Road walking street. This one we regard as the China's number one shopping street. This street, just have thousands of the stores on both sides. Every day there are more than 10,000 people just coming here for shopping. Yeah, and this street, around 20% of the stores, just with the long history, more than 100 years old. Yeah, and at first, just on both sides of this street, there were lots of the opium stores for selling the opium. Yeah, but now you couldn't see anyone because it's now illegal in China.
In a moment, we'll show you the map of the central part of downtown to help you get your bearings so that you can discover these streets for yourself. And then you also want to explore the nearby streets. The Nanjing goes through the heart of downtown, and there's a wonderful grid of streets in this neighborhood. There are some wide boulevards like this with a lot of cars and trucks going by, such as Henan Road. But then there are many other streets that are more narrow. They're not pedestrian necessarily, but it's a mix of scooters, cars, and people, the old Metropole Hotel. And we're just going to wander in the heart of old downtown for the next few minutes and show you Fuzhou Road especially. This was like the Broadway. This was really a major artery in Shanghai 40, 50 years ago. Check this guy out on the scooter, loaded down with Coca-Cola and water bottles and boxes galore. So Fuzhou Road is still today a real important street, a real vital place, and so full of life. The people are just wandering, they're walking in the streets, they're scootering by, they're push-carting with a whole load of boxes. There's just a never-ending cavalcade of sights to see, including on the side streets. So we'll just do some meandering around in the heart of downtown. Here's a big modern bookstore, attracted a group of students out for a field day session in the bookstore. Further walks along Fuzhou. It's famous as a headquarters of bookstores. There's the art bookstore and there's the foreign language bookstore, which is the best place, about the only place to buy English language books. They have great selection of guidebooks in there too about Shanghai. And more of the cross-street action. Of course, the cross streets are a little bit more narrow, but they're also lively with retail space. You notice that it's just a wall of retail shops throughout this downtown neighborhood, which really keeps it alive. And also people are living in the block in what's called the Lilongs. There's these alleys that run, even on a busy street like Fuzhou, these alleys run right into the heart of the block, and this is where the people live. This fellow's selling umbrellas, pushing his bicycle around and ringing a bell to get some attention. Laundry hanging outside, they'll do their wash in the sink here. People living in small, here's the chicken man making deliveries. Small apartments, very modest, but very comfortable. It's surprisingly quiet when you get 1/2 block in from the busy street. And it couldn't be more convenient. After all, you're right in the heart of downtown. This is so different than the typical American pattern of a city where nobody lives downtown. Of course, that's changing somewhat nowadays in America. But recent history, people live in the suburbs and commute. Here in China, they live right in the heart of the city in a very comfortable and relaxed way, too. Oh, here's a great scene of the street food. Here's a noodle shop on the corner, just going gangbusters. A huge load of udon with some greenery, some basil, and fresh vegetables mixed in there, and a wok filled with rice, and a wok with the fried dumplings. So you place your order at the cashier on the other side of the shop and hand her your receipt, and you get a big giant plate of rice. Or you can get the classic Shanghai fried noodles. And it is so inexpensive. This is very typical. Nearly every block in the city has got some kind of noodle shop, and you can take the food out or eat it inside the restaurant. Now look at the prices. To interpret for you, 9 yuan, that's like $1.50. That's what you're paying for this plate, this huge lunch, about $1.50, maybe $2. Such a bargain. And it's healthy. Don't worry about getting sick from food like this. It's freshly cooked, it's hot, it's steaming. So go for it. More of the action on the side streets. It's just so unusual for us to see this kind of activity, people walking in the middle of the road and boxes stacked up everywhere, mopeds scooting by. It's just a lively and diverse and vivacious city, full of energy. Here's how they hang the laundry. Just get a stick and hang it right up there on the rods in your Lilong alleyway. Some more inexpensive pants, like $5, $6. A little impromptu produce market. More of the alleyways. In Beijing, these alleyways called Lilong have largely disappeared. But in Shanghai, they're all over the place. It's estimated about 1/3 of the population lives in that kind of a setting. More of the sidewalk noodle shops. You can get the dim sum, the variety of dumplings, bowl of rice, noodles. You don't see much in the way of Western food here, but that's great because you're looking for the local atmosphere, the authentic atmosphere of the city. And remember, this is a little bit different than the upscale boulevards that you also find in China. This fellow making keys right on the sidewalk. People just hanging out, chatting with their friends. The old city streets of Shanghai. There are newer streets, there are glitzier streets such as Hawaii High, and we've shown you some of that as well. And there are some beautiful modern shopping malls. We'll end up this episode at one of them. Here it is, Raffles City. And it's very popular, especially with the young people. It seems like here the average age is in the 20s, teens and 20s, early 30s. The yuppies out to buy their modern fashions in the modern style. It's a beautiful mall. It's got several food courts upstairs and downstairs. So it's a nice place to eat. More Chinese food typically, as well as the variety of Western fast foods there. And excellent stores. You don't do much in the way of bargaining in a mall like this, but their prices are pretty good. Not as good as you'll find in the shops in the old streets, but this too makes a fun part of your visit. You don't want to miss out on going and exploring some of these modern shopping malls as well in Shanghai. This is right across from People's Park. You can't miss it. Raffles City. And here's the upstairs food court. Real easy to order. You just look at the sample plates of food and point. They're not going to speak much, if any, English, but here it doesn't matter, does it? You just point and pay the yuan, which is going to be inexpensive. Again, probably $5, $8 equivalent for a nice lunch there. And you've got a good range of choices.